How y'all doing today?
All right.
All right. Let me say that one more time. How y'all doing today?
Great.
All right, that's what I swear, man, every day I try to live now, man. When people ask me how I'm doing, I be like, I'm doing awesome. You know what I'm saying? Because I know that only by the grace of God that I'm able to stand in front of y'all and, even be able to give my testimony. Side a great person. I know she has a great testimony. Sorry I'm late. I actually had to work. I work in a prison, and so my coworker did call in. She called in on me, so I had to handle some business there. But to tell you my story quickly, I grew up in the Decatur area, mostly in Lithonia. Young man coming from Auburn, Alabama. And I love Auburn and I love Roll Tides. I know it's that's crazy as I know that's as crazy as all outdoors.
You can't say that.
Yeah, but it's
all right, never mind.
Hey, I got a split personality when it comes to that. But moved up here in '84. Had dreams, to be successful. Had dreams of want to play basketball, go to college. Because I didn't know my dad, but I knew that he went to Auburn University. I know he was a star point guard for Auburn University. And naturally, I wanted to play basketball as well. And so I did great for 5th and 6th grade, 7th grade, and then once I got 8th grade, I was an A and B student. By the time I got to 9th grade, the summertime of 9th grade, I had started entertaining the street life. Started selling drugs down Lithonia, in the late '80s when the drug game was kind of really, at its peak, I guess. And my mother didn't have, the resources, man, to me, to provide what I wanted. So I took matters in my own hand to, go out in the street and start trying to sell some drugs. But while I was in the streets, man, I started really entertaining a lot of nonsense in the street that caused some real conflict in my life. Not only did I start selling drugs, but I started robbing, breaking the houses, breaking the cars, you name it, I tried it. So in between 15 and 18 years old, I was in and out of juvenile. First charge I caught was a robbery charge when I was 15. Next charge I caught was a terrorist threat, tried to fight the police officer. Next charge was a pistol charge. Next charge was attempted robbery charge. Just a bunch of stuff. I was in and out of jail. But what I always tell kids when I go out of school, out in high schools and colleges and stuff, the worst decision I ever made was when I dropped out of school in 9th grade. And it was so amazing to get through 8th grade A and B student, and by the first semester, going into the second semester of 9th grade, I dropped out of school. Just so how fast it is, man, to entertain a certain lifestyle and adapt it, and then make certain decisions, man, that you don't realize at the time, man, is really, detrimental to your life. But by the time I turned 18, I was turning 18, 1992. Had a son, had another son on the way. I was stressed out, depressed, didn't know anything, didn't know how to turn around. I know I wanted to do right, but I didn't know how to get back on that right path. And so having that desire to want to be a good father, but not knowing how to go by it because not having strong male figures in my life, or at the time me and my mother wasn't on the best of terms, and my mother was just being a provider and not understanding what it was to be a parent. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't get the substance that I need, man, to learn how to redirect my life. So by the time I turned 18, I found myself in DeKalb County Jail at the old jail, charged with 13 major felons. I was charged with murder, felony murder, 3 counts of robbery, 3 counts of false imprisonment, 3 counts of aggravated assault, burglary, and carrying a concealed weapon at 18 years old. So you can only imagine, as I said, in that county jail, what was on my mind. And I always tell kids all the time, kids like, well, you probably was thinking about, you wish you could be home, all that good stuff. But, that was a time when I thought about suicide now, because I didn't understand how I wanted to do something in my life to find myself in prison or county jail, charged with the worst charges that you can really have. The crazy thing about my charges was I didn't actually do the murder. I was a part of an armed robbery that went wrong. Actually, I wasn't even standing close to the house when the person got killed. But sometimes as young people, we get misinformation. We want to keep it real. And so I tried to play my part and keep it real. Not knowing that, you know, how serious these charges. I knew they were serious, but, you know, my mother couldn't afford an attorney, had a defender, public defender. And when we did find a lawyer that took the little $500 my mom was able to even give to try to even just look into something, he felt some type of sympathy to want to help out, but he wasn't a experienced attorney to try to fight a murder charge. Long story short, I ended up pleading out for an 18-year sentence for the murders and armed robberies. That, you know, when I look over my life, man, it was a blessing because technically for all those charges, I shouldn't even be here talking to y'all. And so I went to one of the worst prisons you can go to at the time. Some of y'all, you know the story. You know the story of the old prison. You know, I went to Alto. And the thing about Alto, as a young man, and you know, had good hair, brown skin, and you know, that's a whole nother story, you know. But thank God, man, I really didn't have much conflict to that degree. The most important decision I ever made in my life is when I got saved. I got saved in the county jail, and at the time of my life, I didn't realize that decision was going to, you know, have that much effect in my life. I just thought, I know I need to do something different in my life. I knew I didn't want to keep going in and out of jail. I know this wasn't the place for me. And of course, you know, I thought if you got saved and started doing right, God was going to magically open the door. You know, it didn't work like that. You know, Peter, and they opened the door for Peter. You know what I'm saying? I was hoping he was going to open the door for me. But several things I learned going through that process. And, you know, I never really even talked about this much except recently on a radio show, that I didn't realize the way the system is sometimes. Even though I take my blames for making certain decisions in my life, I never really put that out on anybody because I shouldn't have been out there doing what I was doing. I shouldn't have been doing it. I don't blame because I didn't have a father. I don't blame because of my mother. But I was hurt that the detectives kind of forced me to try to make statements, and even wrote the statement. I didn't write it, they wrote the statement, and kind of scared me up to force me to sign it. And so, and even kind of lied in it, even though I told them, like, that ain't how that story went. You put your own, you know, you put your own piece in there. Anyway, got the 18 years, went down, long story short, ended up doing 15 years in prison. Last part of my sentence, I went to the Atlanta Transit Center on Ponce de Leon. And that's when God began to really open some doors, and they started inviting me out to go speak to a lot of schools and churches and different things before I even got out of prison. And so I eventually got out 2007, December 10th. Finally released. I was 33 years old. Got ready to get out of prison, got hit with a bombshell. Georgia changed some laws, right? And because I had a false imprisonment of a minor, they wanted me to register as a sex offender. So my life got that much more complicated. And of course, you know, I'm trying to figure out how in the world you want me to register as a sex offender. I don't even have a sex offense charge. None of my charges had anything to do with sex. But Georgia passed a law saying, you know, if there was a minor involved at the time of a robbery or kidnapping or something like that, you have to register as a sex offender. And it doesn't have to be of a sexual nature or something to that degree of how it was written. And so you can imagine, you're thinking this is supposed to be the best day of my life getting out of prison.
And you got to go register.
And I had to go register, but the crazy thing about that is the first day I get out, when I get to the parole board, or parole office, they told me that they made the mistake of letting me out. And that it was a school too close to the place that I was supposed to parole. So they couldn't send me back in the prison, but all they could do was file a warrant on me and then put me back in the county jail until I found a place to live. I happened to find a rooming house because I couldn't move my mom because she stayed by school. The condo I just put money down on to move in, didn't even stay in there 20 minutes. I lost all that. So for one night I had to stay in the Atlanta motel right down Moreland because I couldn't find a place to stay at overnight. And I had to move it to a rooming house. I went from a condominium in Sandy Springs, in less than 24 hours I had to stay in a rooming house. And for 2.5 years we was in out of court fighting for that. by the grace of God, man, they passed some laws and things happened. And I was taken off of it December 3rd, 2009. I was still on parole, and God did something spectacular, man. I was asked to come back inside the prison system as a chaplain, which was unheard of, to be on parole and still allow the liberty to come back in. Because the warden felt like, you're the type of person we need here so guys can see how to make a difference in your life. And so January 1st, 2010, I came back in the Atlanta Transit, to the same place I paroled out of as a chaplain, and that's what I've been doing for the last 8 years. But not only that, I started my own mentoring program, which is called Freedom is a Choice, which is geared toward encouraging our youth to choose freedom over incarceration, which I've been doing here in the local Dekalb area. That's where I grew up at. Even though I do a lot of stuff all over Metro Atlanta, and a lot of things I do is a lot of public speaking, motivation speak, because I really, you know what? These last 2 years has been so emotional for me, and I'm not that big of an emotional person. I'd be sad to see stuff, but the rate that our young people are going to prison, the rate our young people are dying, it's just something I've never seen before in my life. And I just went to 2 memorials last week for 2 young men that died, and so that's why that's where I was able to get off work early today, man, because I like to pour back, I like to talk to the community, I like to try to connect, build resources, because that's what God have called me to do. That's why I've given my life in such a capacity, man, to try to make sure I can be an encouragement to young people to make better decisions. When I go back inside the juveniles and the prisons, all I'm seeing is, majority of young African-American males. And now you're seeing a high rate of young African-American females, and females in general. I mean, they're just blowing up the prison system. And there have to be some changes. There's going to have to be something different in our community. So that's shortly in a nutshell what I've done. Like I said, I've done a lot. I've been with a lot of organizations. I got my own book out. It's called Omar. And I just being transparent about my life. Growing up in Alabama, a friend or family tried to molest me. Just being transparent, and I definitely got some good response back from a lot of young people who. It was amazing that you just surprised how many young people have went through some of the same thing that you went through in your life, whether it's jail, whether it's conflict with your family, whether it's juvenile, whether it's friends of the family or family member trying to, like, you just be so shocked. But I'm grateful that, my book have really opened up some hearts, man, for young people to really start speaking out about some things, and I'm grateful for that. So, and I definitely was supportive about coming out and just talking about my life. Hopefully be an inspiration to y'all, and hopefully, I can help y'all in some capacity in the future.
Thank you.
Hello. My voice is kind of gone from work. I'm sorry. But my name is Shantia Horton, and I was incarcerated at the age of 18. I just came home December the 5th, and now I'm 27 years old. Pretty much, Omar.
Yes.
Like Omar. I was incarcerated for originally felony murder and armed robbery. I was the driver, but Georgia laws, accessory charge, you're gone. I did about 14 months in the county, waiting on trial and going through that process. And it seems to be a revolving door. You see a lot of people in and out. I learned a lot in prison because I grew up there pretty much, but it took me time to realize what was really going on. So during that amount of time, a lot of people tend to get institutionalized because it's a completely different world. It's a very small community where there's mess, there's drama, there's chaos between the inmates, between the officers, and personal dealing. So it's just drama, a lot of drama. But if you take a step back and try to realize, okay, all of the same thing that's going on in here is happening on the street. So what I did personally, I like to hang around older people. I'm the only child. My parents are older. So I tend to gravitate towards older people who have wisdom, who has knowledge, and can pass that down to me. So what I did, once I got in a couple fights, cussed out a few officers, and went to lockdown for speaking my mind, which they said was causing a riot. In lockdown, I got into my Bible. And honestly speaking, I feel as though because I wasn't in my Bible, I got into trouble. I grew up Jehovah's Witness, by the way. So, 3 times a week, we're going to the Kingdom Hall, you're doing Bible study at the house, and I deterred from that. But my home wasn't really what people thought it was. My dad was on the road a lot. He was gone. I believe my mom was stressed, and she became abusive. So at a young age, maybe like, well, not as young as you, but about 15, I started smoking weed in high school. And then I just hopped off the porch and got in the street. And I was robbing, selling weed, things of that nature. And I put myself around the wrong association. And sitting in 4 walls, having nowhere to go, it makes you realize a lot about yourself. It makes you realize a lot about the people that were around you. And if you think and pay attention to what's going on, you will see what to do to make a change. If you want to change, a lot of people not ready to change. But if you want to change, you'll take that step back and you'll see what you need to do. So boom, I got with the older people. I got with the lifers, and I just hung out and chilled with those people that were positive. So once I got that positive energy in my life, in my circle, I started to think about being an entrepreneur, which I thought about that before, but when you get in the street, all of that goes. When you start smoking weed, you have an effort mentality. Doing drugs, period, it deters the mind. So now I've been home about 7 months, and I am officially a homeowner. I'm very proud of that. In the transitional center, got my credit together, did a lot of overtime, had a savings account at my job, and I was able to save money. I was able to work my behind off, because in Georgia, you don't get paid when you work. Oh, let me backtrack, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. So going to lockdown, getting in my Bible, I was like, okay, this is too much. Lockdown is too much for me. I'm not with it. I don't like to be in a closed space and I can't go anywhere. It's the worst feeling. No more locked doors. But I started getting into different activities. Playing basketball, dancing, because we would have events at the prison every 4th of July, Christmas, all the holidays. So we would practice dancing just to get out the building. I would go paint the dorms, anything. And I learned different skills from doing that. I learned how to paint, learned how to dance, advanced my basketball skills. And the closer I got to coming home, the officers, they pay attention to the change. They pay attention to the people. And they allowed me to do outside detail. Work my behind off there, but I learned I dealt with untrained horses. So to learn how to tame horses, I learned car maintenance. So if I got a flat, I'm good. But at that time, when I was outside the gate, I put in my mind, okay, if I'm doing all of this work for free, when I finally get my feet on the ground, I'm running with everything that I have. And that's exactly what I did. I kept that mindset, and now I have a house, I have a line leader position at my job over a bunch of guys. So just imagine, you know, my arms and stuff look like this for a reason. It's hard work. I work at Tip Top Poultry at a Marietta plant. Mhm. But you know, that's my story. And now I've started. I don't have a book yet, but I'm getting there. It's a process. So my plan was. My plan was when I got into my house, I would start making these motivational videos for like 30 seconds to a minute. So now I've been doing it about 7 weeks, 8 weeks. And I have a hashtag on Instagram called Tears Real Talk. And what I do is just, a lot of stuff is off the top. But I'll pick a topic to discuss for the day and I'll talk about it. Whether it's about depression, whether it's about, you know, going out here, getting off your behind and go get your money, achieve your dreams and goals. Whether you have somebody behind you or not, we have to do it for ourselves. And when we do things for ourselves, other people will see that. And they'll gravitate to you. And that's how you create your circle. And like I did in prison, I created a circle of positive people. And if you have people in your life or networks in your life that can bring you up, but negativity will bring us down.